All right, welcome back, everybody. For the January 2018 payment cycle, the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, made direct payments into approximately 100 beneficiaries' bank accounts that were part of their test file. SASSA says the test payments were 100% successful and has encouraged them to undertake direct payment transfers into approximately 2 million beneficiaries come the 1st of February. SASSA's goal is to take control of over 80% of social grant payments by the end of March as their contract with Cash Payment Services, that CPS, expires the 1st of April this year. Bathabile Dlamini, the Minister of Social Development, joins us in the studio now to talk about this very, very important issue. Minister, thanks for joining us. Good to have you on the programme.
Thank you, Leanne.
All right, now, the phasing out of CPS before the 1st of April, are you on par with your goal of 80% control of payments?
We've already done our pilot, and it was successful. And Leanne, these are the people that have already been getting their money from the banks. So it's not like we are inventing a new thing that has not been happening. And it was out of their choice that they preferred their grants to be directed through banks.
Okay. So, I mean, SASSA is going to undertake direct transfers into bank accounts, if I understand that correctly, of approximately 2 million beneficiaries, and that's coming up now. That's by the 1st of February. How certain are you that this will go smoothly?
We are very certain because, firstly, this has been going through a long route. Funding would come from the fiscus to another bank, to Green Road and CPS, and it would then go to accounts. But now it will go straight from the Reserve Bank to the bank account, and we're going to be able to manage all those 2 million accounts, and we're going to make savings out of the whole thing. And we are going to be able to determine whether our people did receive their grants or not.
Okay. In terms of the bank accounts you speak about, so obviously a lot of the beneficiaries have got their own private bank accounts, their personal bank accounts. Can they keep these bank accounts, or do they actually need to open up an account at the post office in order to receive these funds?
It's the 2 million people that have been getting their grants from their banks. So we're going to be using their numbers.
So the
difference is that it is SASSA that is paying them directly.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how it's going to work. So for now, the post office can only assist SASSA with the management of social grants that's paid out electronically and not cash payments, as it stands now for the post office.
As it stands now, there are grant beneficiaries that have been getting their money from the post office. They're going to continue getting their money from the post office. And we are going through processes and protocols of allowing the post office to handle a particular number of grant beneficiaries, because there is a protocol that is used to allow a bank to handle a number of grant beneficiaries.
Particularly for cash payments, though, that's I think what I'm referring to. So we understand the electronic, but cash payments. Can the post office handle cash payments as yet, or is that going to be phased in?
We've decided that SASSA is going to handle the issue of cash payments.
Okay.
So because we already have the infrastructure, we have the knowledge, and it's one of the things that we've been doing, but working together with the service provider. But now it is SASSA that is going to take over, and there are things that we are not going to venture into, Leanne, For instance, the transportation of money, that's not our field.
Yeah.
We can create havoc. You need people who understand security issues and issues of armored vehicles and all those other things. So we're not going to venture into that. But ensuring that we increase the footsteps of SASSA, and secondly, ensuring that South Africans understand that grants are a human right. Grants are not just about money. We must respect grant recipients. We must not push them from pillar to post.
Yeah.
And there are gains that we've already made, and we should shy away from going back, retrogressing, because there are things that we want to squeeze into the whole process.
So today is quite a big day because you're recognizing the overall performance of all social grant beneficiaries living in child-headed households. Tell me a little bit about this.
It's grant beneficiaries generally, and we've found out that actually there's a huge number of grant beneficiaries that wrote grade 12 exams or national senior certificate exams. But secondly, more than 21% passed with a bachelor's pass, which is a great achievement.
That is amazing.
Out of the top 20,
Yeah.
4 are grant beneficiaries.
Wow.
And
for child-headed households.
There are others are from child-headed households. From child-headed households, we've taken 20 children, and out of those kids with distinctions, there are those that have 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 distinctions.
Amazing.
And
Those are
kids who
inspiring.
stay with senior citizens, kids who stay on their own,
Yeah.
and they are able to perform maximally. And if you talk to them, you understand the way they conduct themselves, the seriousness that is in the family. But what is also important is the role that is played by our caregivers that take care of children from poor families and children from child-headed households.
Yeah, yeah.
But one other thing that occurs well with us, Leanne, is that girls performed much, much more than boys.
Okay.
Yes.
Minister, there's 2 serious issues I want to get into right now. Firstly, there's this talk of CPS reportedly claiming 1.3 billion rand from SASSA for a breach of contract. Can you elaborate more on that for us?
Actually, we are having a press conference on that matter, and we are not aware of that.
Okay.
And when we looked into the things they are talking about, it's things that were settled before actually the start of this tender, because you will remember that we were paying in different provinces, and this was done by different companies. But what is worse is that our system could not talk to each other. So those are things that were settled long before.
So according to you, you know nothing about a breach of contract or 1.3 billion rand that they want to sue you for?
I know nothing about a breach of contract. What I know is that at the end of such a tender, you have to sit down, come up with a report. of Auditors looks into the report and ensure that the payments that you made to that company were duly belonging to that company.
Okay. Minister, the other issue I think that many people are wondering about is this talk, which I think it came out yesterday or maybe the day before, I'm not too sure, about the Social Development Department paying for a 2-hour interview on a talk show, that Real Talk with Anele, I think. The statement that came out yesterday is that preliminary investigations by the SABC has found that the payment was actually made, and we're talking R500,000. What do you have to say about this?
How many programs are we running with SABC? We run many programs, and I think Social Development Communications will have to break down the amount of money that we have paid SABC and say this was used for this was used for this. What I know, for instance, is that if we go to rural areas, most of the time the media is not there, and we pay OBs from media houses. And secondly, there are times when we have to pay for journalists when we actually go abroad. When we went to pick up the kids from Brazil, we paid for journalists. When we have interviews abroad, more particularly in the UN, we pay. When we went to receive our award for the Command Center on gender-based violence, we paid for the services of...
Which I understand, and I think many people do understand. I mean, it's very difficult to cover those costs. However, I think the big... Minister, hold on one sec. I think the big thing comes in where it is a studio like we're sitting in right now, where it's money that should be directed at the people you're talking about, at those wonderful students that you are emphasizing. And yet this money, R500,000, is being spent for you to have an interview, a personal interview, because the issues of SASSA and the work that SASSA has done or any of that wasn't necessarily brought up in this interview. It was a more personal interview about you, your family, and you, kind of a PR exercise. Is that protocol for the department to pay for something like that?
That is why I'm saying... it's important for all of us to understand the breakdown, because I saw this yesterday and I asked for the breakdown of how we've used the money that we've paid SABC.
So you still want to have a look more at this, but just as I wrap this up, do you think it's fair, the outcry from people saying that money should not be spent for publicity on your behalf, and it should rather be used for the department and issues like you're talking about? I mean, for instance, going with you to have a look and see you honour these wonderful students you're talking about. Don't you think paying R500,000 for that is amazing, as opposed to R500,000 for 2 hours of airtime on an entertainment show?
Okay, I would be interested firstly to know about who came up with this story. Leanne, we need to be honest.
Yeah.
There was a time when I even felt that the media is demonizing me. And I think we are going back to that. How many journalists have questioned stories of my colleagues that would be in magazines, adverts that would be in huge billboards, and many other things.
Yeah.
So I think when I don't have a problem with people raising concerns about what has happened, but also just to talk about an issue without understanding, without knowing how we actually even used that 500,000 rands as a social development with SABC is very important.
Yeah. Well, Minister, we wait to hear more from your department. We thank you for giving us your explanation and your time. That was the Minister of Social Development talking to us here on Morning Live about a range of issues, but particularly focusing on what I think affects you most is that transition from CPS, paying out these social grants. It's a lot of money and a lot of people being affected, but the Minister's saying everything looking smooth to go ahead for that transition. But the 1st of February, those 2 million beneficiaries hopefully getting it all in their bank accounts smoothly. All right, let's take a break.